On night shift at St. Bartholomew Hospital, there's one rule. Never answer the light in room 312. The room is empty, the door is locked, and the man who died there hasn't finished his last breath. When Nurse Evelyn follows the warm glow under that door at 2:12 a.m., her heart stops on the hallway floor, and something follows her home. Now every clock that stalls and every light under a closed door might be room 312 opening for you. Hospitals pretend to be quiet. Signs whisper, please keep noise to a minimum. Nurses lower their voices. The floors are waxed until footsteps turn into a soft, smudged hush. Phones go to vibrate. Doors close with careful hands instead of slamming. But silence never really settles. There's always something underneath, moving. The sigh of ventilators. The wet rattle of a failing lung. The broken metronome of a heart monitor that can't decide whether to scream. Someone sobbing in a staff bathroom with the fan on. The soft chime of an elevator door opening on a floor no one called it to. Evelyn Harper knew hospital noise. She'd worked days at 2 other facilities before she took the night shift position at St. Bartholomew Memorial. Days were easy to understand. Sound meant life. Phones ringing, call bells chiming, doctors barking orders, visitors arguing at the front desk. St. Bartholomew at night was different. The building was old in layers. New glass and steel grafted onto gray concrete, poured over older brick. The 3rd floor west, where they slotted Evelyn when she transferred, belonged to an earlier version of the hospital that no one had fully killed. The ceilings were a little too low. The corridor was a little too narrow and a little warped, like a spine that had healed crooked. Fluorescent lights buzzed with a faint insect whine, antiseptic bit at the back of her nose, fighting and losing against a slower smell underneath. Old paper, stale dust, the faint sweetness of something that had been rotting a long time and gave up trying to hide it. Her first week on nights, she told herself the unease was normal. New unit, new layout, new coworkers, new rhythms. She was still memorizing room numbers, still learning who needed their pain, meds on the dot, and who would pawn their pills, off on the roommate, who would scream if you turned on the light, and who would beg you not to leave. If you make it through 2 weeks, you're golden, Louise. One of the night aides had said, first week your body hates you. Second week your soul does. After that, you stop noticing. He'd grinned when he said it. On her 4th night, the building properly introduced itself. She was halfway down the main hallway of the 3rd floor, pushing her med cart when the overhead lights flickered. Louise had warned her, storms screw with the power. Wiring's older than God. Sometimes the generators burp before they kick in. Don't freak out. The lights blinked once.
Twice.
Then went out. The darkness that followed wasn't just an absence of light. It was thick. Physical. It pressed against her eyeballs and teeth. Somewhere down the hall, someone made a small animal noise, half panic, half question. For one full, bloated heartbeat, there was nothing. Then the emergency system shuddered itself awake. Red strips along the baseboards glowed to life, thin and dim. Backup bulbs over each door bloomed a darker red. The corridor turned into a long, low tunnel, shot through with deep, wrong shadows. The familiar white rectangles of patient room doors became tall, hollow black squares, all but one. At the very end of the hall, half hidden past a support column that had always made the corridor seem a little off-center, one door leaked a different kind of light. Not red, not fluorescent. Warm, soft, steady, like the glow of an old bedside lamp. The number above it read 312. Evelyn's hands tightened around the medcart handle. The cold metal felt slippery under her palms. She watched that light for a second, then another. Someone must have left a lamp on in there, except she'd felt the outage. Felt that instant of absolute dead dark, between the fluorescence dying and the emergency strips humming up. Generators didn't care about cheap table lamps. Everywhere else on the unit was running on thin, red backup. 312 was not. Her training said you check. You verify. You don't assume. Her stomach said don't. She took the cart to the nurse's station instead. Marjorie sat there as if she'd been put in place when they poured the foundation. Heavy-set, silver hair twisted into a bun that never seemed to loosen, reading glasses low on her nose as she wrote in a paper chart with the steady, unstoppable confidence of someone who'd been doing this since before half the unit was born. Marjorie? Evelyn said, trying to keep her voice light. Did you see the... If this is about switching you to days, no, Marjorie said without looking up. It's not, Evelyn swallowed. The power when it blinked. All the lights went to emergency, but there's a lamp on in one of the rooms. Normal power. I thought maybe maintenance. Marjorie's pen stopped. Her eyes lifted, slow. How wrong? She asked. Evelyn didn't like the way she phrased it. Room 312, she said. She heard herself lower her voice on the numbers without meaning to. The light's on. It's bright, not red. Marjorie pushed back her chair. How long? She asked. I just saw it. Without another word, Marjorie walked past her, out to the bend in the corridor where you could see the far end clearly. Evelyn followed, heart already beating faster. From there, the door at the end of the hall was easy to see. Framed in dim red, its outline was solid. Underneath it, a fine line of warm amber glowed, haloing the threshold. Marjorie stared at it for a long, long moment. It's early, she said. A dribble of cold ran down Evelyn's spine. Early for what? Marjorie turned toward her. In the emergency light, every groove and line in her face was a shadow. Listen carefully, she said. You do not go in that room. You don't even look through the window. If that light goes on, you stay away. If anybody calls from in there, you do not answer. You let it ring itself out. Evelyn tried to shape her confusion into a laugh. There's clearly something in there, she said. If there's a maintenance guy, or someone put a patient in there and didn't tell us. There is no patient in 312, Marjorie said, and something in her tone erased the rest of the argument. Then why is... Because someone, Marjorie said slowly, hasn't finished dying. The red strips hummed on. Rain ticked against the long row of windows at the far end. A monitor in 308 gave a single piercing shriek and then subsided. The line of amber under the door stayed perfectly steady. The outage lasted 11 minutes. They did a quick sweep, running on flashlight beams and habit. ICU never lost power. ER barely flickered. The generator that fed their wing coughed, caught, choked, then steadied. No one coded. No one stopped breathing. Except if you counted what had happened in 312 6 years ago, someone always had. Evelyn did her rounds because that was what you did. She scanned barcodes and pushed meds. She coaxed a paranoid schizophrenic to take his nighttime dose by letting him watch her pop it out of the blister pack herself. She talked a woman with metastatic breast cancer through another wave of pain, counting breaths until the PCA pump beeped and let her give herself another bolus. She worked, and she put the memory of that strip of lamplight in a box and shut the lid. At 2:12 a.m., when the unit was at its deepest quiet, visitors gone, evening rush over, the next big push of labs and meds. Still an hour away, she happened to look up from a chart. The wall clock above the station said 2:12. The small screen on the portable blood pressure machine charging beside her said 0212. The second hand on the wall clock seemed to hesitate on its mark. At the far end of the bright white hallway, room 312 glowed. The overhead fluorescents were back on. There was no need for emergency lighting. Everything looked normal. Scuffed tile, closed doors, the red exit sign above the stairwell. But 312's door didn't look like it belonged there at all. Light pooled under it. Not white, lamp warm, nicotine yellow. Marjorie was downstairs, probably out back by the ambulance bay, pretending she'd quit smoking 10 years ago instead of just telling the state that on her annual health assessment. Evelyn could have called her. Instead, she was already walking. The closer she got, the more the sound drained out of the air. The blood pressure machine's faint charging hum dimmed away. The muttered sleep talk from 306 faded. Her own footsteps grew muffled, as if the waxed floor had been covered with felt. The nameplate beside the door to 312 was a blank plastic rectangle, scratched and gouged. No sliding name card, no little paper strip with an attending scrawl. Someone had tried to pry it off once and failed. The light under the door leaked in a soft, molten line, pooling into a puddle that seemed too bright for the bulb that should have been on the other side. Evelyn's hand hovered over the handle. You do not go in that room. You don't even look. She knocked instead. Hello? She called, knuckles barely touching the wood. No answer. She knocked again, louder. Hello? It's Nurse Harper. Is anyone? Silence. The right thing to do, the safe thing, would have been to walk away. She twisted the handle and pushed the door open. The warmth hit her first. The unit never actually felt warm. It hovered somewhere down in the 60s, chilly enough that families brought in extra blankets. Chilly enough that nurses fought over the one space heater in the break room. This room was warm like a bedroom with the door shut and someone sleeping inside. Heat soaked into her scrub pants, beaded at the back of her neck. The smell followed. No antiseptic, no harsh lemon from the floor cleaner. Just old fabric and dust and something sweet underneath that made her think, involuntarily, of funeral flowers 3 days into their decay. The lamp sat on the bedside table to the right of the bed. Its shade was the particular yellow of plastic that had been smoking adjacent for 20 years. The light it threw was deep, almost oily, turning the walls the color of old teeth. There was a body in the bed. For one instant, her mind did the normal thing, made room for what should be there. Young guy, late 20s maybe, hospital gown, IV, nasal cannula, another admit no one had told her about, another page she'd missed. But there was no IV pole, no monitor leads, no dry erase whiteboard with staff. Plan scribbled at the top. The only noise was the faint electric whine of the lamp. The man in the bed lifted his head as she stepped fully inside. His eyes met hers. "You can see me," he said. His voice was calm, not surprised, pleased. "Of course I can see you." Her tongue felt thick. You're sitting in the dark with a lamp on. You scared the hell out of me. You're not on my assignment board." He smiled. The expression almost fit his face, but not quite. It tugged a shade too wide, like someone was pulling at the corners from the inside. "What's your name?" she asked. Because that was the next box on the mental checklist, and she needed the checklist. "Daniel," he said. "Daniel Cross." The name ticked somewhere in the back of her brain without quite landing. "How long have you been here, Daniel?" He tilted his head, considering. The motion was a fraction off, like a video played at the wrong frame rate. "How long have you been alive?" he countered. The skin on her arms pebbled. "That's not funny. I wasn't joking." He glanced past her toward the open door. For an instant, his expression sharpened, intent. "They told me when they brought me in. Numbers. They love their numbers." His pupils were very dark, very deep. 2:12, he said. AM time of death. Her heart gave a dull, painful knock in her chest. "You're not dead," she said. It came out strained. "You're sitting right there talking to me." He looked down at his own hands, turned them palm up, fingers spread. "I don't look it, do I?" he murmured. Up close, wrongness bloomed in the details. His skin wasn't quite right. Not the faint flush of fever or the waxen pallor of a corpse. It was flat, like a photograph. Shadow pooled in the hollows of his eyes in a way that didn't match the lamp. His hospital bracelet was a band of blank, plasticky white. No name, no date of birth, no MRN, just a barcode that went nowhere. "You're not on the board," she repeated, because repetition was safer than letting the silence swallow her. "You're not in my report. I'm going to get the doctor, okay? We'll figure out." "They already came," he said almost idly. "They circled me with their flashlights and their hands. They said their words. They wrote them down. They took what they thought was me away." He tapped his chest with 2 fingers. "I didn't go with." His gaze locked back on her. "You shouldn't be able to see me yet," he said. "You're early." The warmth in the room thickened. Her next breath felt like inhaling air that had been inside too many lungs already. The lamp dimmed just for a second. The shadows along the ceiling coiled a little closer. Something massive exhaled in that darkness. Not the hiss of a vent, not the rattle of an AC unit. A breath with weight in it. Cold whisper brushed every hair on her forearms. Evelyn ran. There was no thought, no decision. One moment she was seized in place by his too deep stare. The next, her body took over and flung her backward through the threshold, into the safety of rectangle bright, fluorescent light. She didn't remember touching the knob, but there she was in the hallway, hand welded around it, chest heaving. Everything out here was normal again. The buzz of the lights, the occasional cough from a room, a faraway phone ringing at the nurse's station. 312's door swung shut on oiled hinges, the latch catching with a gentle final click. "Hey," someone said. She flinched so hard it hurt. Louise stood a few feet away, holding a bag of dirty linens, eyebrows up. "You good?" "Wrong room," Evelyn lied. "Thought it was..." "Never mind." He studied her for a beat, then shrugged and moved on. Her palm tingled where she'd touched the handle, all the way down to the bones. When she told Marjorie, the older nurse didn't look surprised. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't call psych. She didn't even say the word hallucination. She just listened, face closed and intent. While Evelyn stumbled through it. The lamp, the warmth, the man, his name. "Time of death," he said. 2:12 a.m. "Come with me," Marjorie said when she was done. She took Evelyn down a back hall to a door so bland and unremarkable that Evelyn couldn't remember ever having seen it before, even though she'd walked past it every shift. Inside was a filing room, floor-to-ceiling gray metal cabinets. The air tasted of paper and old rubber bands. "Everything's supposed to be on the computer now," Marjorie said. "Except what we don't feel like trusting the server with." She opened a drawer, flipped through thick manila folders with the easy speed of long practice, and pulled one free. "Cross, Daniel," she read off the tab. 24. "Admit date, 6 years ago?" She opened it on a waist-high cabinet, angling the pages so Evelyn could see. A black and white admission photo was stapled to the top corner. Daniel looked younger there, softer, but it was him. Admit diagnosis, multiple trauma, motor vehicle collision, pneumothorax, multiple rib fractures, possible basilar skull fracture. Further down in smaller handwriting, time of death 02:12 a.m. Location, room 312. "He died in that bed," Marjorie said. "Big storm. Whole building hiccuped. The generator that feeds this floor didn't kick in right away. ICU got their power back first. ER never lost it. Up here we had flashlights and fingers crossed." Her thumb rubbed the edge of the page. "There was a nurse on him," she added. "Elena Morales. You've seen her picture in the old staff photo, they never took it down. Dark hair, back row." Evelyn remembered the frame in the break room. A group of nurses in out-of-date scrub tops, half smiling, washed out by fluorescent glare. Morales, E, RN, scrawled under one of them in marker. The woman had tired eyes and a wary smile. "She was the one who found him when the power came back," Marjorie said. She said the room felt... She searched for the word. Thick, like the dark hadn't left, just thinned out. She said she had the feeling, walking from the door to the bed, that if she turned around the hallway outside wouldn't be where she'd left it. "What did she do?" Evelyn whispered. "Did her job." Marjorie closed the folder, checked for a pulse that wasn't there, called the code team anyway, watched them work him and call his time. She slid the file into a canvas bag beside the cabinet instead of back into the drawer. "She quit 2 weeks later," Marjorie said. "Tried to make it to a month. Didn't." Evelyn stared at the closed bag. "What is it?" she asked. "What's in that room? Don't tell me it's just bad vibes." "Hospitals keep things," Marjorie said almost gently. "Most people don't notice because most of those things are small. A smell that never goes away, a cold spot in a hall, a room where no matter how much we paint, the walls still look like they're the wrong color." She nodded toward the general direction of the main hall. Whatever was in there with him, when the power cut and the machines shut up and he realized nobody was coming in time, some of it stuck. Or maybe there was already a crack, and that night tore it wider. She met Evelyn's eyes. Sometimes it looks like him. Sometimes it just feels like pressure. Weight. It likes attention. "It talked to me," Evelyn said. "It will," Marjorie said. "If you let it." She turned off the filing room light. "Best thing you can do is what we've all been trying to do," she said. "Pretend 312 doesn't exist." She tried. She slept badly. Every time she drifted off, she saw that lamp burning in the dark, heard that not quite human exhale, woke with the echo of his voice in her head. "You shouldn't be able to see me yet." On her next shift, she threw herself into the work. Call lights, bed alarms, a confused man pulling at his Foley, a post-op patient whose pain would not come, down no matter how much they pushed. By 2:08 a.m., her body ached with exhaustion. The call light panel at the nurse's station chimed. Every nurse looked up by reflex. Each little square on the board had a room number printed beside it. When a patient hit their bedside button, their number lit red, and the chime sounded until someone reset it at the door. Room 312's square should have been dark. It glowed a steady, ugly red. "No," Marjorie whispered. Jenna, the youngest nurse on the shift, frowned. "Isn't that room closed?" "It is," Marjorie said. "Then why is its light?" "Because the wiring in this place is a disaster," Marjorie said. "Too fast and too loud. It's a glitch. Leave it." The call light chimed again. Higher, almost petulant. You didn't ignore call lights. It was one of the few absolute rules. "What if maintenance is in there?" Jenna said. "What if somebody—" "No one goes near that door," Marjorie said. "That's not a suggestion." The red square pulsed. Evelyn listened to it. Each chime wedged under her skin. After a minute, the noise scraped raw. She went into the med room, closing the door more sharply than she meant to. Inside, the humming refrigerators and buzzing. Overhead, bulb embraced her with their familiar mechanical sound. She pulled the next patient's meds, trying to pretend she didn't hear the distant chime through the wall. The sound stopped. The silence that followed felt wrong, heavy, humming. She checked the wall clock. 2:11 a.m. The second hand ticked once, twice, then lurched backward. 2:11 a.m. again. Her throat closed. The second hand juddered between marks, like something had hold of it. A breath whispered under the medroom door. Not from the gap beneath it, higher, like someone pressing their mouth almost against the wood. She turned. The door was open an inch. She was almost sure she'd shut it completely. The corridor beyond looked longer. The lines of doors, the fire extinguisher cabinet, the exit sign, they were all where they were supposed to be. But the far end where the hall bent seemed further away. The air between here and there was packed with a grayness that wasn't quite shadow. Halfway down, 312's door waited. Light poured under it, warmer and thicker than the cool fluorescent white washing the rest of the hall. Her hand tightened on the med tray. "Don't," she whispered. She opened the door the rest of the way and stepped out. The grip of her shoes on the tile felt wrong. The floor had a slight give to it, like fresh linoleum laid over something soft. The unit's soundscape melted with every step. Vents, TVs, the faint rattle of a cough. They all fell away like someone was closing invisible doors behind her. She passed 308. Its door was closed. As she walked by, air squeezed in under the threshold with a complaining hiss that sounded too much like a reverse sigh. The wired glass window in 310's door caught her reflection. Pale face, hair escaping her bun, badge lanyard swinging. There was someone behind her in the glass. A woman in a navy scrub top a half shade, different from Evelyn's, dark. Hair scraped back into a messy knot. Eyes ringed with exhaustion and something harder. Her ID badge hung a little crooked. Evelyn couldn't read the whole name, but the Mora was clear enough. Elena. For one beat, their gazes met in the distortion of the wired glass. Elena's lips moved. No sound. Don't. Or run. Or help. Evelyn couldn't tell. She blinked and took another step, and the angle changed. And it was only her own face in the glass again. 12 waited at the very end of the hall. Its door was closed. Its light was not. The clock over the nurse's station was tiny from here, but she could still see the hands. 212, 312, 212. The numbers turned in her head like a puzzle that didn't want solving. She laid her palm against the door. It was warm. On the other side, a voice said her name. "Evelyn?" "Daniel." Only this time he didn't sound calm at all. "I can't see," he said. "It's dark, please." Her throat tightened. It is not him, she thought. It is never only him. "Am I dead?" The voice broke. "I can't tell. Everything hurts. Please tell me if it's over. I don't want to be alone." The handle turned under her hand. The door eased inward. The room had swollen. It was still 312, same doorway, same angle. But the space inside had grown. The walls bowed away. The ceiling seemed higher and lower at the same time. The corners sagged like wet cardboard boxes. The lamp burned on the bedside table. Its amber light was barely enough to reach the foot of the bed, leaving the rest of the room drowned in curdled shadow. Daniel sat where she'd seen him before, propped up on pillows. He was thinner, bones showing sharp against the thin cotton of his gown. His face had lost the pretense of health. Something too still lived behind his eyes. "You took your time," he said. The door closed behind her with a soft, final sound. The pressure change was immediate. Her eardrums flexed. The air lay heavy on her skin. The hospital outside vanished. No vents, no beeps, no faint squeak of a cart. Just the slow drag of her own breath and his. And something else breathing, somewhere above them. "What are you?" she asked. The words came out numbed. He tilted his head, listening to some frequency she couldn't hear. "I'm what's left when everyone leaves the room," he said eventually. "I'm the second nobody writes on any paperwork." The lamp flickered. In that thin, chopped light, the bed he sat on became the nearest point in a forest of beds. They hung in the air, above, below, to the sides, tilted at angles no room could hold. They passed through one another like cheap holograms. There were people in them. Dozens, hundreds, faces blurred by shadow. But their mouths were all the same, open a fraction, as if trying to form a word they'd run out of time for. Eyes wide, not in surprise, in recognition. She saw a child's round cheeks, an old woman's papery skin, a man with a fresh surgical scar. Their chests were all caught halfway between inhale and exhale. When the lamp steadied, the extra beds blinked out of sight, as if someone had drawn a curtain. "Do you know what happens when you die?" Daniel asked. "Not after. Just when?" He slipped off the mattress and stood. The movement broke into too many pieces, out of sync with itself. "The body knows before the rest of you," he said, stepping toward her. "There's a second, just one, where everything you never finished tries to fit through the same little gap. Regrets, apologies, all of it. It's like trying to shove a house through a keyhole." He smiled, and this time there was no kindness in it at all. "It's beautiful," he said. "And it's ugly, and it's so lonely." He was close enough now that she could see the individual pores on his nose, the faint shadow of stubble along his jaw. His hospital bracelet was still blank. "The room didn't always exist," he went on conversationally. "Or maybe it did, and nobody stuck around long enough to notice. Places like this," he lifted a hand, indicating the unseen hospital around them, make the crack bigger. "All that almost stacked up. All that I don't want to go yet, rubbing against all that you have to." He squeezed his thumb and forefinger together in the air between them, as if pinching something invisible. "Then somebody looked right at it," he said. "Gave it a name, gave it a number, gave it a story. It likes that." The pressure in the room thickened. It felt like being very deep underwater, just before your lungs gave out. "You're feeding it every time you think of me," he said gently. "Every time you say my name." His smile deepened. "Say Elena's again. It remembers her." The thing above them listened. She could feel its interest like cold sunlight. "No," she whispered. His hand came up and pressed flat against the middle of her chest. His skin was not skin. It was the temperature of an empty freezer. Her heart jumped, misfired, then stopped. Real stopping was not like the movies. There was no dramatic clutch, no long sigh. There was an instant where everything inside her simply let go. The absence roared. Her whole life had been lived to the soft accompaniment of some muscle inside her doing its work. She had never noticed it as a sound until it wasn't there anymore. Then it was all she could hear. Inside that silence, other sounds crowded in. She was in a bed, staring at a fluorescent panel, thinking of the dog she'd had when she was 10. She was in the back of an ambulance, tasting copper and adrenaline, listening for sirens that were already wailing. She was choking, drowning, waiting for someone to answer the call light. Every dying breath she'd ever been in the room for, every one she hadn't, all piled into that 1 second, where her own heart had failed. Over it all, the thing in the crack leaned closer. Curious, "I pressed the button," Daniel said in a chorus of voices that weren't his. I waited. We all waited. We thought if someone would just tell us if this was it, it might hurt less. His face flickered. For an instant, Elena's features pushed through his. Then an old man's. Then nothing human at all. It would be easy to let go. To sink back into that piled-up instant and stay there. Another mouth held open on a question no one ever answered. That was what this thing wanted. Not peace. Not terror forever exactly. Suspense. She thought of the people she'd seen die. The way some of them had gasped and clutched, fighting until the very last. And how some of them had relaxed when someone, family, nurse, whoever was there, had said the words, "It's all right. You can rest." Her tongue felt like a stone in her mouth. She forced it to move. "It is over," she croaked. The words scraped their way out of her like broken glass. Daniel's hand on her chest spasmed. She dragged a breath back into her lungs. It burned like ice. "You died," she said. "You, Daniel, Elena, all of you. You're dead. It finished. It happened. It's done." The word landed like a weight. Done. Around them, the stacked beds flickered visible again. Bodies shuddered. Some chests rose. Some fell. Some mouths, that had been held for God knew how long on the edge of that last inhale, finally let it out. The thing above them moved. It didn't like that. It liked the stretch, the hold, the desperate no. "Stop!" Daniel snapped. His face rippled. Other selves tried to push through his skin. "Don't tell it that. Don't. It doesn't get to decide when you're done," Evelyn said. Her voice shook. She didn't stop. "You do." She wrapped her hand around his. His wrist under her fingers was hard and bitterly cold. "You died," she whispered. "You are allowed to be done." Something tore. Not in the room. In the crack. The light from the lamp flared white, then winked out. For one infinite, obliterating second, The world was nothing but the sensation of falling through, a hole too small for her. Then hands slammed into her chest from the outside. She came back on the hallway floor just outside 312. Fluorescent light stabbed her eyes. The first thing she felt was pain, deep in her ribs from compressions. The second was cold. It soaked through her scrub top where they'd cut it open, air conditioning gnawing at sweat. The third was weight, someone straddling a stool beside her, palms driving into her sternum. "Come on, Harper," a voice grunted. "Luis, don't make me do this all night, okay? 8, 9, 10. Charge to 200. Clear." Her body arched as the shock hit. Her back slapped the floor. Flatline became ugly, chaotic squiggles. Then slowly, something like a rhythm. Later, the paperwork would say she had been pulseless and not breathing for 8 minutes, that she had received 3 shocks, that spontaneous circulation returned at 2:20 a.m., time of arrest 2:12 a.m., location, hallway outside vacant room. She woke in ICU with a tube down her throat and her hands lightly restrained, so she wouldn't pull it out. They told her later that she'd coded in front of 310, not 312, that 312 was locked, that no one had been inside. They didn't mention the amber light someone swore they'd seen under its door when they were running the crash cart past. 2 days after they took the tube out, the attending came in with a clipboard and a tired smile. "We almost lost you," she said matter-of-factly. "Your labs look fine. Your echo is beautiful. We can't find a structural reason for what happened. Best guess is some kind of transient arrhythmia. Sometimes the wiring just misfires. The body's weird," Evelyn rasped. "Exactly." The doctor patted the bed rail. "The good news is, you were on a floor full of people who know what to do when hearts decide to be dramatic. You picked a good place to die." She chuckled at her own joke. Evelyn didn't. At night, when the unit settled into its own version of almost quiet, things got strange. On the third night, she woke to the soft, insistent feeling of being watched. The curtain around her bed was drawn 3/4. The monitors painted the room in weak green and blue light. The digital wall clock across from her bed read 2:12. The colon between the numbers blinked. On, off, on, off. It didn't move to 2:13. Her monitor beeped dutifully, each tone marking another heartbeat. On the screen, the little green line traced perfect normal sinus rhythm. The number in the corner ticked, 72, 73, 72. But the clock did not change. In the shiny black of the monitor screen, she saw the faint reflection of the ICU hallway behind her. And in that reflection, a door that did not exist in daylight. Third from the end, no room number, light pooling under it in a familiar, sickeningly warm strip. She blinked hard. The reflection cleared. Normal hall. Normal doors, no extra. On the 4th night, she woke to find someone sitting in the visitor's chair by her bed. He sat half in shadow, elbows on his knees, fingers loosely laced. The monitors hummed around them. "Hi," Daniel said. Her heart monitor did not alarm. The green line stayed in its steady march. "You got out," he said. "Sort of." Her throat burned. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. He thought about that. That's one way to look at it. From its perspective, you shouldn't be out there. He nodded at the ceiling, at everything beyond. You walked all the way into its favorite second, and then tried to kick. The door closed behind you. He smiled, the expression surprisingly small and genuine for once. "You upset it," he said. "You told us something we weren't supposed to know. You said we were done. Did it work?" Her chest hurt with every word. Are they? It got quieter, he said. "For some of us, not all. Some people don't want to be done. Some people still have too much to shove through that keyhole. But the ones who believed you?" His eyes went oddly bright. "It's not so loud anymore." He stood without the chair creaking. "What do you want from me?" she asked. He tilted his head, the way he always did when listening to something else. "It wants you," he said. "Can't stop thinking about you." A nurse who told people they were allowed to finish. He glanced at the heart monitor. "It's very interested in what your actual last breath will look like." "I'm not dying," she said. "Everyone is," he said gently. "Just not always today." He walked to the door. Just before he stepped out, he turned back. "Oh," he added, "it's not trapped in that room anymore." Cold spread through her, starting behind her sternum. "You brought a piece back with you," he said. "Or it pushed one into you while you were there. Hard to tell. Either way," he grinned. "There's a new crack now, portable, flexible. The hallway was empty when the night nurse came in to hang an antibiotic. The clock said 2:16. They discharged her a week later with a folder of instructions and a referral to cardiology. "Give yourself time," the NP said kindly. "You went through something big. Nightmares are normal. Anxiety is normal. If you have chest pain, dizziness, or feel like you're going to pass out." She stopped listening. She went home. Her apartment felt too small and too bright after the hospital. She sat on the couch and listened to the upstairs. Neighbors stomp around and watch TV. She watched sunlight crawl across her coffee table. For a while, nothing obviously wrong happened. She avoided clocks. She avoided hospitals. She threw away her work shoes when she realized they still smelled faintly of disinfectant and floor wax. Some nights, she almost convinced herself that what she remembered from 312 had been nothing but a dying brain trying to make sense of a starved moment. People hallucinated in cardiac arrest. They saw tunnels, lights, dead relatives. She'd seen a bad room in the shape of a story. Then one night, she woke at the exact moment the refrigerator motor went silent in the next room. Her apartment was too quiet. She could hear her own breath like someone else's, rasping in and out. The digital clock on her microwave read 2:12. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. The lock screen said 2:12. The numbers didn't change. The air in the apartment moved in a way it shouldn't, as if a door had opened somewhere that didn't lead to a hallway. Her bedroom door was closed. A line of soft amber light glowed under it. She sat up slowly. "I'm not at the hospital," she said aloud. Her voice shook. "You don't belong here." The apartment listened. On the other side of the door, someone drew in a thin, tremoring breath. "Evelyn?" It was her own voice. Not exactly. A little higher, a little thinner. How she imagined she'd sounded with a tube down her throat. "Please," the voice whispered. "I don't know if it's over. I don't know how long this lasts. Tell me." Her hand rose toward the knob. If she opened that door, she knew what she would see. The room would be wrong. Bigger than it was. The walls drooping. The bed not where she'd left it. A lamp on a table that had never existed in her IKEA floor plan. Shade stained yellow. Light thick and warm. On the bed, someone would be caught in the same stretched instant she had seen in 12. Lungs half full. Heart half stopped. Mind flinching away from the fact that this was the end. It might be her. It might be someone else wearing her voice. It didn't actually matter. What mattered was that something was on the other side, waiting to see what she would say. She pressed her palm flat to the wood instead. It was cool. Solid. Under her skin faintly, she felt a vibration, like heavy machinery far underground, or a heart trying to decide whether to beat again. She kept her hand there until her muscles burned. The light under the door dimmed. The digital clock on the microwave clicked over to 2:13. Her phone updated a second later. She didn't sleep again that night. She never went back to St. Bartholomew. The hospital didn't exactly disappear from her life. Stories have a way of moving. Louise told someone at another facility about the nurse whose heart had stopped outside the bad room. Jenna whispered about the time. The call light came on from a vacant bed and nobody would go. Marjorie retired early, hands shaking just slightly as she handed in her ID badge. And on her last day, she said to anyone who would listen, "If the light is on and it shouldn't be, don't you dare open that door." They told the story over coffee in break rooms, over cheap drinks after shifts, at conferences in other cities where they didn't say the hospital by name. The details changed. Sometimes the room number was 212. Sometimes it was in the basement by the morgue. Sometimes the light was green or blue or came from nowhere they could pinpoint. The shape stayed the same. A place, not just a room, but a moment where the last second of life could be stretched out, savored, held. Something had found a way to live in that stretched second. It noticed when people noticed it. It liked attention. You've given it some. You couldn't help it. You followed Evelyn down the warped third-floor hallway. You watched the lamp burn under the undesignated door. You let yourself imagine the stacked beds, hanging in a space that wasn't big enough to hold them. You felt for a heartbeat. The idea of being stuck on the edge of a breath that never resolves. It likes that. It learns faster now. It doesn't need a crumbling brick wing bolted to a 1950s foundation and a cheap, yellowed lamp to live in anymore. Anywhere there's a bed, a door that can close, a clock with digits that can hesitate for just a fraction too long, a body that really truly does not want to understand that this breath could be the last. Your hallway, at 3 a.m., between your bed and your bathroom. The dim carpeted corridor of a hotel you don't know well, where every door looks the same. the fluorescent lit emergency exit floor in your office building, where you walk alone at the end of a late shift. Hospitals are not quiet. Neither are bedrooms, really. Not when the house is asleep and you are lying there listening to your own heartbeat and waiting for the next rise of your chest. There is always something breathing. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's something listening on the other side of the thinnest possible wall between now and nothing. If some night you wake and see that the numbers on your clock won't move past a particular time, whatever time it has chosen for you. If you notice light leaking under a door that should be dark. If you hear a voice that sounds almost like yours, or almost like someone you love, asking quietly if this is it. Understand, the answer you give it will not save you. Tell it no, and you will stretch the second out for it. Feed it every scrap of your refusal and fear. Tell it yes, and you will teach it something rarer. What acceptance looks like from the inside. What a mind does in the instant it steps voluntarily into the dark. It will take either. It will take both. You are reading this, and you are breathing. In, out, in. Don't hold it too long. It notices.